actually. Are we horsing it in? Is that what's
Here we go. We're so lively this Wednesday morning.
Hello, good morning. It's Wednesday, the 4th of October, and welcome to Ireland AM on Virgin Media 1 and Virgin Media Player.
Now, coming up on the show this morning, we've got everything from the science of rest, which we all love here. We're talking about sleep, to the business best. Let's take a look at what's coming up.
Indeed. We talk about it too much.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the gossip. And people are always talking about Taylor Swift at the minute. We're like, how did you sleep last night? How did you go? Do you know yourself?
Good night's sleep. Did you take a tablet?
There's new parents watching us right now. Oops. We're going to be looking at the science of sleep. We're also going to be answering your sleep-related questions. So send them in to us on 0896 111 111. It's not us answering them, by the way.
No.
We do have a professional.
Did you get a good night's sleep last night?
No.
Okay. Former Dragon's Den Norah Casey, she's going to be joining us after 8 to discuss preposterous proposals and being in business.
Indeed, and another entrepreneur, Aoibhín Garrihy, is going to be stopping by to chat, channeling her passion for poetry into her latest project. She's got so much on the go. We're going to be chatting more about that in just a little while.
And where is he this morning? Where is he going? Eeny, meeny, miny, maybe leash. Derek, where are you?
Mo. Good morning, team. We're live down here in lovely Laois this morning. It's the dry and settle start, you'd be glad to hear, with some showers through northern, northwestern areas, and that's where the heaviest of them will lie out there today. But good hazy sunshine winning out elsewhere. Now, we've come down here to the heart of the Midlands this morning. Dunamore in County Laois is where we're at this morning. And coming up later on this Wednesday, we're taking you back in time because we're off to visit the Dunamore Workhouse and Agriculture Museum, dating back to Ungurthamore, the big famine, 1845 to 1849. So we're going to be taking you back in time, steeped in history later on this Wednesday. But guys, I cannot get over how dark it is at this hour of the morning. The mornings are gone, aren't they? Completely slipped.
Definitely.
Send me down a torch.
Oh, yeah.
I know. The science of sleep, waking up when it starts. Great when it's bright, isn't it?
Winter is coming.
It's nice coming into work bright, but
here we go.
Dark mornings.
But you're listening.
Here, we're here to brighten up your morning.
That's exactly what we're going to do. We've got loads coming up for you today, but right now we're going to get the very first news headlines of the day with Anne O'Donnell.
Thanks, Maureen. Good morning. Well, we begin in the US this morning, where a historic vote has led to members of the House there stripping Kevin McCarthy of his title as Speaker, leaving the leadership of the Republican Party in turmoil. Well, the move comes days after Mr. McCarthy cut a deal with Democrats to push through a spending bill and also to avoid a government shutdown. Well, a fellow Republican led his ouster.
It's the benefit of this country that we have a better Speaker of the House than Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy couldn't keep his word. He made an agreement in January regarding the way Washington would work, and he violated that agreement. We are $33 trillion in debt. We are facing $2.2 trillion annual deficits. We face a de-dollarization globally that will crush Americans, working class Americans. Kevin McCarthy is a feature of the swamp.
You need 218. Unfortunately, 4% of our conference can join all the Democrats and dictate who can be the Republican Speaker in this House. I don't think that rule is good for the institution, but apparently I'm the only one. I believe I can continue to fight, maybe in a different manner. I will not run for Speaker again.
Well, back home talks are set to intensify today as the coalition party leaders and the finance ministers work to agree next Tuesday's budget. Well, last night the government announced a fall in corporate tax in the Exchequer figures to the end of last month. Here's
Discussions over Budget 2024 are intensifying with just days to go. It's a difficult balancing act ahead for the coalition leaders and finance ministers, with overspends in health and corporation tax falling according to the latest Exchequer returns published last night.
We are hearing all of the international bodies now set out an economic forecast that is generally of a lower magnitude in terms of growth than they would have done previously.
In recent days, the government has dampened down any expectation of many one-off measures to tackle the rising cost of living. Marie Mulcahy, Virgin Media News.
Well, activity in the multinational sector in Ireland is set to contract. That's according to the ESRI in its latest economic report out today. It warns that the global environment is more challenging and that also trade is slowing. However, it also believes that the Irish domestic economy will continue to grow at a steady pace. Well, one of the report's authors says the government needs to strike a careful balance in next week's budget.
I think over the last few years we've obviously had significant disruptions between COVID-19, which obviously saw the construction sites close down. You then had a big bounce back after that, but clearly what you've had since is inflation, and that has really picked up, and that's led to obviously a surge in costs in key building items. But also, of course, now on top of that we have the response of monetary authorities to inflation in terms of higher interest rates, and higher interest rates have a negative impact both on the supply and the demand side of the market. So it affects affordability on the demand side of the market, but it also affects cost of finance clearly for those in the construction sector.
In other news, at least 21 people have been killed in a bus crash in Italy. That happened after a vehicle went off a flyover near Venice last night. Well, the bus, which was carrying tourists, caught fire in the district of Mestre after flipping. The cause of that crash is not yet known.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Thank you, Ger, and a very good morning. We're broadcasting just outside the town of Rathdowney here. We're in the heart of the Midlands in County Laois. And coming up later on this morning, we're off to visit the Dunamore Workhouse and Agricultural Museum. So that's all to come at 9:45, towards the back end of the show. So lots to look forward to. Now, we're on to 4th of October, Wednesday morning. Let's take an opening look at weather together now with Martin Brigney with us on cameras. And it is a mainly dry and settled start for most areas. It really is, in fact, Donegal bearing the brunt of all that heavy rain at the moment. Through parts of Galway, City into Athenry and parts of Skibbereen there and Dunmanway in County Cork, not escaping either in those light to locally moderate southwesterly winds. Now across today, those southerly winds will freshen, and it looks like once again through Ulster, up around the northwest, bearing the brunt, taking most of that rain out there today, and it will lean on the heavy side as we progress our way through the hump of the week. Elsewhere, the further south, we think, holding a lot drier with that mixture of cloud cover and bright spells. Top temps a little bit fresher and cooler out there today as well, in and around 13 to 16 degrees. Into tonight then, it'll kick off dry for a time, and then we're going to see those showers build through parts of the west, and they'll begin then to track eastward. So we are expecting a bit of a bumpy, bit of a rocky ride with plenty of heavy rain on the cards as we work our way into your Thursday, with temperatures no lower, a little bit milder than what we saw last night, back to 10 to 13 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here in a fresh but dry County Laois at the moment. We'll be back again live at 7:35.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Hello. Now, the ESRI, the Economic and Social Research Institute, has predicted that the Irish economy is expected to, and I don't want to be the one to say this, but it's my line, it's expected to fall into a slight recession this year, and the government may have less budget cash to splash than it had anticipated.
And we're going to have more on this story and everything else that's making this morning's papers just in a few minutes.
Welcome back. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Examiner. Its headline, McGrath says shortfalls in tax revenue will limit budget. The days of surging corporation tax receipts are over, the Finance Minister has warned. This year's tax take will undershoot predictions as budget negotiations kick up a notch today.
6-foot ring of steel at Dáil for budget is the top story in the Daily Mail. 6-foot-high barriers will be deployed as part of a ring of steel at Leinster House on Budget Day next Tuesday, amid concerns over a repeat of the ugly protests seen last month.
The Mirror goes with Dáil 999. Top police officer Drew Harris is sending out an SOS for Gardaí to protect the Dáil on Budget Day. The decision to draft in officers from around the country comes as the refusal to do overtime meant no public order unit was on the streets of Dublin last night.
The Star leads with, I fear evil Joe will go free. On the 19th anniversary of her daughter's death, the mother of murder victim Rachel Calley says she fears for the first time in her life that killer Joe O'Reilly could soon be released.
The Herald's front page, Undertaker's grave RIP off. An Undertaker is at the centre of a major Garda probe into allegations that he stole cash from dead people while he was removing them from their homes.
The Sun leads with beautiful payout. A lucky Irish punter splashed out on front row U2 tickets after pocketing thousands of dollars in a Las Vegas casino.
The Irish Times headline goes with economic growth set for sharp slowdown, ERSI warns. The government has received 2 fresh warnings ahead of next week's budget, with the Economic and Social Research Institute forecasting today that growth will slow sharply while the Exchequer figures show further weakness in corporation tax.
And the Irish Independent goes with budget warnings as ESRI predicts Irish economy to shrink. The economy is expected to fall into recession this year, with the ESRI now warning the government against budget tax cuts that go above and beyond inflation.
Now joining us with that ESRI story and everything else in this morning's papers is political correspondent with the Irish Sun, Adam Higgins. Good morning,
Good morning, Adam.
Morning, guys.
Can we talk about this ESRI warning? What's happening?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because we heard so much about Ireland being at full employment. We've got these big back-to-back budget surpluses, and yet now we're getting warnings that we could be going into recession and the government needs to kind of ease off spending in the upcoming budget. And I think it's largely coming from a slowdown that we're seeing in corporation tax. So the Department of Finance had forecasted that we were going to bring in more corporation tax than we actually are. So that's slowing down over the past 2 months. And that slowdown is really due to our big multinationals in the likes of pharmacy and tech. They're across the globe seeing a bit of a slowdown. So things are coming back a bit. So it's kind of a worrying one for workers because Michael McGrath has already said that he wants to really lower income taxes in this budget, which will put more money back in your pocket. But if the ESRI are warning against that now for fears that we're going to go into recession and that we need to keep more cash and that anything other than that might stoke inflation, it does get into a kind of a messy economic situation here.
But I mean, it's so weird because recently we've been hearing, well, apart from the last couple of weeks, but $1 billion over what they expected, another $1 billion over what they expected. And suddenly we're talking about recession. That can't surely be right, can it?
Well, see, the recession thing as well, I think sometimes the recession is kind of a technical term about where the economy goes, and people get wrapped up a little bit too much
in the word.
It's
because
not.
we think of recession, we think of
Celtic
bad old
Tiger.
days,
Exactly,
Celtic Taylor, bust, and we were all in recession.
And that's
but
not
that's
the
not
same level.
technically the same what we're going into.
No, that's not it. And it would go back to we will go back into an increase next year again, is what they're predicting if the government handles it well. But I think the worrying thing, or the one way it would very quickly impact people at home, would be that the government may have less to spend in the next week's budget than they originally thought, because they had predicted that they'd have a surplus of about 10 billion this year, which is now being estimated back to 8 billion.
Yeah.
So 2 billion less to do more with next year.
And that's interesting because it really only happened last month that they went, oh, the corporation tax take is down. Same with this month. That it's all happening very close to budget day that they're having to redo their sums.
Well, the corporation tax thing has been coming for a long time. I mean, this is something that has been growing and growing and growing, the amount of money we're getting off these enormous companies. And a lot of this comes from about 8 to 10 huge companies, the likes of Google and Apple and all these companies that are based here. And the finance minister, or the former finance minister, now public expenditure minister, Pascal Donoghue, has been warning forever. I can't remember how many press conferences I've been at where he's saying this corporation tax win is going to stop, it's going to come, it's going to stop. Yeah. And it looks like that day is finally coming.
Finally here. But I mean, the ERSI have been saying for a long time that the government should stick within their 5% spending. Yeah. They're not, they're breaking it, they have been breaking it. So the ERSI has literally been saying if you have to stay within the 5%, and they're not going to do it even next, it's going to be 6.2 or something like that. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And this is a rule that the government came up with themselves and have broken every year since they came up with it as well. And I think it's when the government are coming up with their budgets and this sort of thing, they have to take into consideration these sort of things. This is advice that they're getting from these think tanks, but advice and the decisions that are made, there's differences there. And we saw that as well with COVID, and when Tony Holohan gave them advice and the government will go, take that advice on board and then use it somewhere else. And that's what you're seeing here.
Yeah, and I suppose one thing is that people are are really being hit. Like, they can't afford, their groceries have gone up so much every single time that you have to try to do something. The report says that people's wages should go up 14% to keep in line with inflation. So there's huge issues going on here. So obviously it's a game of numbers between now and next week.
It's putting the ministers and the government in a difficult situation coming so late, because the USRI are saying, well, look, you know, I wouldn't go against this advice, whereas they've already committed to this €1 billion income tax package or tax cut package. So, I mean, it's a difficult one now. Are they going to roll back? I can't see them walking back down that hill.
No.
We're wondering what you make of this. Obviously, we're in the lead up to Budget Day next week. We'd love to hear from you. 0896 111 111, how it is in your house with your family, and what you make of what's going on with the government, because it's worrying hearing the word recession. Now, on board Pleanála is in the papers this morning, and it feels very confusing. Adam, can you tell us what's going on?
And it is very confusing. I was at this press conference when they were launching the planning reforms and new planning legislation. And it is confusing because it is an enormous piece of legislation, and I think there's a lot of questions still to be kind of ironed out about what it's going to mean for people when they go to, say, build a new house or build a new estate in their area and that sort of thing. So what this is it's been coming since about 2021. They've been working on this big redraw of the planning legislation. So they've said the planning legislation before was dealt with across a bunch of different bills, a bunch of different departments, and it was very messy.
So it's all under one now?
This is all under one now, one enormous bill. I think it runs to like 800, 900 pages. And the idea is that putting it under one house would streamline it and make things quicker, so that when it comes to planning legislation, things wouldn't get tied up in the courts and we would see things happen.
So what are the changes they're suggesting then?
So a couple of the changes that, one of them is to really beef up on Board Pleanála and also change the name to Commission Pleanála. So that's happening now.
Is that because there were some scandals in 2022 in relation to decisions and people on the board?
There was, and there was issues with, in particular, one of the heads of on Board Pleanála, Paul Hyde, who was then a criminal investigation. There was conflicts of interest in some of the cases he had ruled on. And so that was one of the issues here. And that's probably where you're seeing things like the name change come from, is that they want to, you know, clean it up and make it look a bit better.
Okay.
But really, this is to try and streamline the process, cut down the wait time for those, and limit the amount of judicial reviews and challenges in the courts that you see to planning legislation.
Okay.
And as you said, it has to go to the Oireachtas, and we're going to hear a good bit more about this over the next week or so.
We certainly are. And if you're involved, as always, we want to hear from you. 0896 111 111. It always comes up when I'm out with people giving what's going on?
What's going on?
Can't build that house.
Major political moves in the US last night. Kevin McCarthy, the US House Speaker, he was rightly dumped.
Yeah, the chaos continues in the States. It really is like a TV show that has gone off the wheels now at this stage. So Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, dumped by his own Republican party.
Yeah.
So
there certain factions of it,
Yes, certainly. So there had been... this has been going on with spending situations and legislation. There had been a row between the Democrats and the Republicans. And the Republicans had obviously tried to impeach President Biden and the inquiry there. And there's no love lost between the two in the House of Representatives there. And so what's happened now is there's been a fallout within the Republican Party over Kevin McCarthy had done a deal to allow some of the spending measures to stay on track, so the government wouldn't, you know, just
shut down.
Yeah, shut down. So the states wouldn't shut down.
Yeah.
So he'd done this deal with the Democrats. There's certain hard, far-right elements within the Republican Party who are very unhappy with that. 8 of them sided with the Democrats then to unseat Kevin McCarthy.
But we have to remember, this is the man who needed, 11 or 12 votes to get that position. Like, that was unheard of.
In January,
Just in January. Like, he had to keep going back to try and scrape in another few votes and another few votes.
One of the things he did to scrape in those few votes was ensure that there was a clause that if one member of the Republican Party could go against and unseat Kevin McCarthy. And this has really been his own downfall, because that's the mechanism that has been used here to unseat him.
It's absolutely fascinating. We were going to be covering it across the day on news, of course, because this is the first time in history the Speaker of the House has been unseated. We're going to move on to something completely and utterly different, although I'm sure there's lots of Americans who like to nickname their car.
Adam,
deep
have you a name for your car? Have you got a car?
I have a car, but I haven't got a name for it now. But
if you had to give it a name, what would you call it?
Oh, I have no idea. I used to have an orange Fiat Punto that my brother gave me years ago, and friends called it Tango because of the colour of it.
Yeah.
That was the first car I ever had, and the only nickname I ever had.
You got a nickname for your car?
No, but hold on. This is from a survey that confirms that drivers like to give their cars nicknames.
This is a survey from Volkswagen who said that the majority of people who have a car like to give it a nickname, which is, I mean, fascinating stuff.
So,
and I love this. Sorry, Maureen. 32% of owners believe that their car has a personality.
What's your car's personality?
What's your car's? Just demanding.
Takes on the owner's personality. You know what we're about to ask you right now. We want to hear, do you have a nickname for your car? Why it's called that? Do you say it out loud? Do other people call it? All the things, the car. 0896 111 111. Of all of us here, none of us have a nickname for the car?
No.
No, we're very boring.
Bucking the trend.
Terrible people.
There we go.
Bucking the trend, that's it.
Adam, thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam. Adam staying with us because the Garda Representative Association has begun its protest over Garda Commissioner Drew Harris' decision to change the Garda roster next month back to one that was there pre-COVID. Adam is staying with us to give us the latest on that.
And a little later on, we're going to be discussing the science of sleep and what your body is actually doing when you're getting some shut-eye. We'll see in a few minutes.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Well, sure, bit by bit, it's beginning to brighten up down here just outside Rathdowney in County Laois. Out there at the moment, it looks like Donegal bearing the brunt of all that heavy rain as we speak. Through parts of Galway, Cork not escaping either. But elsewhere, it is holding mainly dry and settling down those light to locally moderate south-westerly winds. Now, right across today, the bulk of that heavy rain lying through parts of Ulster, once again through the northwest. Elsewhere, it is that mixture of cloud cover and bright spells to take us right across the 4th of the month. Top 10's fresh and cooler too at 13 to 16. And into tonight then, it'll kick off with isolated showers, then cloud building with rain in from the west, tracking eastwards across the country into tomorrow. Plenty heavy rain on the cards into Thursday as well, with overnight lows there. A little bit milder than what we saw last night, back to 10 to 13 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here in lovely Laois at the moment. We're back again live at 8.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Now, yesterday in the Dáil, there were claims that the criminal justice system is falling apart as we saw the start of industrial action by thousands of Gardaí against changes to the Garda roster.
Here to discuss the fallout and the chances for a resolution in the near future, our political correspondent with the Irish Sun, who stayed with us, Adam Higgins, and Vice President of the Garda Representatives Association, Mark O'Meara. Thank you both so much for being here.
To you.
And just to let you know, a request for an interview with Garda Commissioner Drew Harris or a representative was declined. We do have a statement for them, which we will be referring to throughout this chat. Adam, our justice system is falling apart. This is what they were talking about in the Dáil yesterday. Can you bring us up to date on what is happening in relation to the Garda roster?
So this is a dispute that's been bubbling up for over a year now on the Garda roster, and moving from the COVID emergency roster to a different roster, or back to really the old Westminster roster, as it was called. So yesterday was the first day of industrialist action from the GRA, and the industrial action will happen every Tuesday now up until November, when this is supposed to kick in. And now you'll see some of the reports today. I know my colleague Stephen Breen was reporting today in today's Irish Sun that the industrial action has had an impact in a lot of Garda stations across the country. One big area of Dublin yesterday had just one Garda car. There was another rural station had only one Garda in it. So the overtime, the voluntary overtime this is as well, it has to be pointed out. It is having an impact. Now the Garda headquarters are saying that, look, they can still put in their effective policing strategies, and everything is working fine. But it has to say this industrial action is having an impact there.
And Mark, like as a representative of the Garda Association, I mean, is that acceptable, that we're having just one Garda in a Garda station? And we've seen all the troubles that are happening in cities and towns around the country. What are you hoping to achieve from this?
Well, I suppose, first of all, and we're quite concerned that it's come to where it is at this present time. We hoped it would never materialise. It's not where we want to be. But unfortunately, it is exactly as we have been pointing out, that we don't have sufficient resources. and that those that are working within the current limited resources are overworked. And they are absolutely exasperated. They are demoralised with the current numbers and the conditions in which they're working on. So to say that we want to be here would be incorrect. That's not what we want to be. We want a resolution to this. That's our main aim out of this, is to get a resolution, a speedy resolution.
We keep on hearing that the Gardaí are completely and utterly demoralised, that we can't keep Gardaí, that people are leaving all the time, and we have seen that, and we're finding it very hard to recruit Gardaí. But that's happened. I think it was Tommy pointed out here, that happened under the current roster that you already have, that it's not making people happy, that we're still losing Gardaí. So, like, what's the point if the return to the old the pre-COVID roster, Westminster will lead to more policing hours, more people on the streets?
Well, we're in full agreement that no roster at the moment, the current roster, the previous roster, is ideal. We accept that there are difficulties with it, and we want to devise a new roster. To say that the current roster people are still leaving under the stewardship, if you like, of our current commissioner, that is correct. But that's a retention issue. That's a retention issue that we believe can be addressed by the current commissioner. We believe it's not being addressed. He's not listening to membership. And that's what resulted in the overwhelming vote of 99% of people with no confidence in our current commissioner.
But you still want to keep the current roster as it stands at the moment. But like, we've our viewers who are watching in this morning who are seeing that the one thing that they want is more presence on the streets. And the Justice Minister, Helen McEntee, said, if this current roster stays, you're not going to see that. It's just not feasible to have that. You won't see the presence of police on the streets, of guards on the streets.
Well, to go back to the pre-COVID roster, it's going to reduce that even further. So that is our, assertion from the outset.
Yeah, well then
what's been said in relation to what will happen if it returns to the pre-COVID Westminster roster is that there is an increase, apparently.
That's right. The Commissioner said, he argues that a return to the old Westminster roster would see 500,000 extra hours of Gardaí, which is the equivalent of about 320 full-time Gardaí. And so he says he wants this in place so that he can have a higher visibility policing, something that has been argued a lot for. In particular, when we saw the recent trouble, the spate of crime across Dublin, there was a lot of calls for higher visibility police in the capital. That sort of thing is what they want, and it looks like he says that he'll get an extra around 320 Gardaí, basically.
Mark?
Again, we would assert that is incorrect.
So you're saying that's not correct?
That's not correct. I mean, ultimately, the numbers are what they are. And, if you have 13,400 members on Garda Síochána currently, by redeploying them to what is claimed to suffice to patrol the streets and it's going to increase the presence, we would dispute that. I mean, ultimately, we're in a situation where we have currently 4 units working.
Yeah.
So 25% of your workforce work at any one time.
Yeah.
You start dividing into 5 different units. You have the same number of people working, other than not at the same time. So you're reducing that again.
So you think you're reducing, okay, as you see it. Just the statement that we received from the Commissioner's office. Throughout the 3 years of talks between Garda management and the Garda associations on a new roster that has involved over 60 meetings, the Commissioner has repeatedly stated that he is willing to compromise to reach agreement on a new roster. So this is, and there's lots of things that are issued in this statement. Well, I never thought I'd talk about a roster so much in my entire life, Mark. What is it that you see working for guards? What is the roster that you see working?
Well, you said it yourself, like, it isn't just the roster. The roster is not the main issue here. There are it's complex.
But it's been made the focus of it, whereas
Correct.
It seems like you've got other issues in relation to pensions, in relation to equipment, so many other things, but you've made the roster the issue here.
The issue that unfortunately has brought us where we are today is that the Commissioner has insisted on a precondition of the 6th of November. The 6th of November is a date that, again, we say, if you introduce that date into negotiations, then our members who are on a current roster on that date are going to be changed to a different roster.
But
so if he takes that off the table and says, let's keep discussing this, let's take that 6 off the table, you're willing to keep talking?
Absolutely. There is no. We've said that repeatedly.
And in relation to the statement that the Garda Commissioner's Office did give us, they did say that they gave you the 3 months warning back in July in relation to the change of the roster, and that it should have been all sorted before then. Listen, I've got a feeling we're going to be talking about this for a long time, especially since the voluntary overtime is being withdrawn next Tuesday in the day of the budget talks. Anyway, Adam Higgins, of course, from the Irish Sun, thank you so much for being with us this morning. And Mark O'Meara, Vice President of the Garda Representatives Association. Cheers. 0896 111 111. We'd love to hear from you in your town or village. Are you seeing the Guards? Are you chatting to them? What's going on?
Now, after the break, we find out why a good night's sleep is better than any skincare routine.
We'll talk to you shortly on Ireland Day.
Now, we talk about it constantly on this show between ourselves, a good night's sleep. And it just isn't about beauty. There are many other important reactions happening in your body while you're sleeping.
Yeah, things that I just didn't realise, and the time that you're sleeping. Here to tell us more about the science of sleep is sleep specialist Anne-Marie Boyan. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here, Anne-Marie, and this is so fascinating, so many things that you said. So can you tell us more about the 3 key ways a good night's sleep affects the body, because this is mentally, physically and metabolically?
Yes, so a good night's sleep. So we're looking at, for adults, about 7 to 9 hours sleep. That's what we should be aiming for. And when we sleep, we have that rest and recuperation, but it's not just rest and recuperation. It actually affects us in 3 ways. So mentally, our concentration is better the next day, we're more focused, we're less, fatigued, basically. Then physically, we're less physically tired the next day if we have a good night's sleep. It also affects our weight, it affects our appetite, and then health-wise, it affects us. So if we don't get a good night's sleep for a long period of time, it's going to affect our health.
And say if you're not getting, and there'll be a lot of people going, 7 to 9 hours, where do I can never get that.
Yeah, there's a lot of new mothers.
There's a lot of new mothers,
there's
lots of people who just won't be able to get that. Is there a way of maybe catching up or napping or doing it? Is there a way of catching up on those hours that you've lost that are beneficial?
So ideally prioritise your sleep. So it is like going on a new health regime. You do need to prioritise your sleep. So aim for the 7 hours, but I do realise with people's shifts or being new mums, as you said, you can't get that. So naps are brilliant. So if you feel that you haven't had a good night's sleep or you simply can't get that sleep, then the next day, if your work permits, have a nap. So napping is really good, but don't do a long nap. So up to 26 minutes. And NASA...
26 minutes?
Yeah, NASA, the space agency, have done a lot of studies on this with their astronauts and with pilots as well. So don't have a really long nap. So you can do that if you're on holidays or a weekend, but a really long nap, like over an hour, is going to leave you very groggy.
But if you... See, I'd have a nap for about an hour.
Yeah. So
26 minutes.
Yeah, and the studies say that if you have that nap, you will be brighter, more focused for between 15 minutes and 3 hours after the nap. So they're brilliant.
I thought it was always 40 minutes. 26 minutes?
26 is the optimal time, according to NASA.
You wouldn't even be asleep after 26 minutes.
I was going to say that. Is that
bed.
like the actual sleep time?
Yes.
The 26. So you have to try and get to sleep. So that... How do you judge that?
Well, listen, this is what's happening. This is amazing, because there are some people who have trained themselves that they are absolutely amazing at sleeping. And then, of course, there are other people who just have terrible sleep regime. But is there an optimum time of night to be asleep? Does it do something, the timing?
Yes, it does. So there was a recent study done by DFS that showed that Irish people are only sleeping 6 hours a night. But apart from that, if we can't get that, we're going to aim for between 10:30 and 12 at night. So that's, if you were to choose your best quality sleep, that's when to be asleep. So I always say to people, try and be in bed for 10 to be asleep by 10:30, because from 10:30 to 12, all the heavy lifting happens in our bodies. So there's a thing called the human growth hormone, which helps our melatonin production, which we need for sleep. And this does all of the heavy lifting when we sleep. So basically between 10:30 and 12, our collagen is repaired, our immune function is repaired, the learning that we've done during the day, all the really good stuff happens between those hours.
But is that even if you get up later that day, it's still between those hours? Like say if you didn't get up till 11 a.m. that morning, is it still that time at night? That happens?
Yes, it is. So that's why I always say try, prioritise your sleep and get to bed early, because if you're missing out on those hours, so if you're going to bed at midnight, you're missing out on all that.
I'm just, because I suppose for an awful lot of people who work night shifts, like might be coming home, hello, how are you, just, before they go to bed. would the equivalent be 12 hours later, 10:30 in the morning until 12 midday, or is it always at night time?
So that's in general for people who go to sleep at normal hours.
Okay, gotcha.
Night shifts are quite hard because they do totally throw our body clock. So people that work night shifts, you have to work with the light and the darkness. So light and darkness are really key for sleep. So you need to be getting light and darkness at the right time. So for example, if you work a night shift and you're going home afterwards, it's important to be really dark. So put on your sunglasses, keep your room really dark and be as dark as possible until you get to bed.
And we do, I know we've spoken about this before, we go in, when we sleep, we go into sleep cycles. What are the cycles?
So, excuse me, so we do about 4 to 6 sleep cycles in a night. So there's 4 stages of sleep. So there's stage 1, 2, 3 and 4. And the 4th stage of sleep is called REM, which is rapid eye movement.
Yeah.
So
That's the deep sleep, is it, when you're in a very deep sleep?
No, so the deep sleep is stage 3. So stage 1, 2 and 3, we're about 75% of the time sleeping. And then the last 25% were REM, rapid eye movement, also banned in the 90s, if you remember. But rapid eye movement is when we dream. It's where a lot of the learning is reinforced again. And you see it in babies, they do a lot of rapid eye movement. You actually see their eyes moving behind their eyelids. Yeah. But the deep sleep is the stage 3. So we're trying to get as many of these sleep cycles as we can in a night. So if you don't have a good night's sleep, you're missing out on that. So if you don't get good REM sleep, you're going to feel physically tired in the morning. And if you don't get enough of the deep sleep, you're going to feel anxious and irritable in the morning.
Do we dream every night? We just can't remember them?
So we dream, the remembering of dreams is in the REM, is in the REM sleep. So that's when it's really vivid.
So if I can't remember having a dream, do I never go into REM?
So if you wake up in REM, you're going to remember your dream.
Oh, so if you don't, okay. So my alarm could be waking me up during one of the other cycles. Is that it?
Yeah, and we do wake up between cycles unconsciously sometimes, and sometimes we wake up and then go back to sleep.
So obviously we know that there are, things to do with on your phone, all that kind of stuff. But people have always, for centuries, have issues with going to sleep. Can you tell me the chemical reactions that are happening in the body when it comes to sleeping?
Yeah, so there's a lot of chemical reactions. So sleeping happens at the start of the day, would you believe? So when we wake up, cortisol happens. So we have a shoot of energy. So that's our get up and go. When we get up in the morning, cortisol goes up and that makes us get up and go. And then throughout the day, that dips. Yeah. And that's our circadian rhythm. And then our melatonin starts producing, which is our sleep hormone, in the evening. So getting that in the evening is really crucial, so you don't want any lights kind of interrupting that, like the blue lights. And then we have our liver detoxifies from about 1 to 3 a.m. Then our melatonin peaks from between 2 and 4 a.m. in the morning. And then we have that half 10 to 12 hour as well with the human growth hormone.
The collagen.
And so there's
the literal give me the beauty sleep.
The beauty sleep.
Anne-Marie, could people be low in melatonin and that's why they don't get a good night's sleep? Or is anybody ever, you're iron deficient or whatever?
Yeah.
Could some people be low in melatonin?
Yeah, so I test for melatonin with my clients at the sleep care company. So basically, melatonin is produced, we produce it naturally. We produce it in our brain, the pineal gland, and also in our gut. So some people are low in it, and I would see that on a stress test. So they are people who might need help with melatonin. And then conversely, there might be people who produce too much. So melatonin tablets, for example, won't work for them.
All right, we're going to talk more about this because I think it's absolutely fascinating. If you have got questions for Anne-Marie, please do send them in. We're going to do a Q&A. It's 0896 111 111. We're going to get to as many as we can. Anne-Marie Bowen, that was so interesting, and we'll have more in just a little while. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Back with you on Ireland AM very shortly.
Hello, welcome back to Ireland AM. We've got lots more still to come in our middle hour. Our
Middle
middle
hour,
hour.
yeah.
We're talking everything from business to books. Let's take a look.
Business boss Norah Casey will be with us very shortly to talk painful pitches in the boardroom and beyond.
And our sleep consultant, who's just been giving us loads of advice.
We used it as a personal counselling
We literally
session,
did.
sorry.
She stuck around to answer your queries. So if you have anything you want to know about, if you're having problems sleeping, or if you want to know anything, message us now on 0896 111 111.
Also coming up, she is 1/3 of Ireland's answer. People say this about them all the time. I don't think they're Ireland's answer to the Kardashians. They are fantastic.
They're classier.
They are fab. They are completely different. Aoibhín Garrihy will be chatting about her famous family after 9.
Now, Derek is getting a history lesson this morning. Where are you, Derek?
Well, Al, we're into the middle hour, and in fact, we're live here from Middle Earth because we're down here in County Laois this morning. We've landed down at Dunamore Workhouse and Agricultural Museum, dating back to the post-famine period, 1845 to 1849. One of the volunteers behind it all is Trevor Stanley. Trevor, whereabouts are we? Where are we right now?
Well, Derek, you're in the main dining hall here of the workhouse. The workhouse catered for 400 inmates, and because of a strict segregation policy, there are 4 distinct buildings, all accessing separately into the main dining hall here.
All right, we'll be learning more about that later on. By the way, on a completely different subject, we're talking all things car names this morning. Do you have a name for your car?
Well, I suppose I call it Tiggy.
Tiggy?
Just because it's a Tiguan.
So you're driving Tiggy all around Laois?
All around Laois.
There you go, Tiggy.
Yes.
Back to you in the studio, guys.
Now, let us know if you name for your car, because we were chatting about that earlier on. We don't.
We don't. We're terrible.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Thank you, Ger, and a very good morning. We're live here just outside Rathdowney in County Laois. Coming up into the next hour, we're taking you on a tour of Dunamore Workhouse and Agricultural Museum. So that's all to come towards the back end of the show at 9:45 a.m. Now, we're getting past 8 o'clock here at the moment. As you heard there with Anne in the news, it really is Donegal bearing the brunt of all that heavy rain. And in fact, we now have that status yellow rain warning in place for the county until midnight tonight. Some heavy spills of the wet stuff, leading to an ongoing risk of spot flooding and surface water. Quite tricky driving conditions as well if you're heading to work or school out there this morning. So please do take extra care. Parts of Cork not escaping either, but it really is Donegal under that status yellow rain warning for now. Now, right across this afternoon, in fact, it is that mixture of sunshine and showers. The rain mainly concentrated there through parts of Ulster, through the northwest. Elsewhere, a breather, because we will see brighter spells pull through the further south and east. We think top temps a little bit fresher and cooler out there today as well, at 13 to 16 degrees. And into tonight, things will settle down for a time, but once again, cloud thickening through parts of the west, bringing with it another system of showers, more rain tracking west-east across the island as we tuck our way into your Thursday. But temperatures on the up, a little bit milder from where we were last night. Values there at 10 to 13 degrees, no lower than that. Anyway, that's how it's shaping up here in County Laois at the moment. We're in the heart of the Midlands. We'll be back again live at 8:35.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Hello, welcome back. It's time to look at this morning's paper, starting with the Examiner. Its headline, McGrath, shortfalls in tax revenue will limit budget. The days of surging corporation tax receipts are over, the Finance Minister has warned. This year's tax take will undershoot predictions as budget negotiations kick up a notch today.
6-foot ring of steel at Dáil for budget is the top story of the Daily Mail. A 6-foot-high barriers will be deployed as part of a ring of steel at Leinster House on Budget Day next Tuesday, amid concerns over a repeat of the ugly protests that were seen there last month.
The Mayor goes with Dáil 999. Top cop Drew Harris is sending out an SOS for Gardaí to protect the Dáil on Budget Day. The decision to draft in officers from around the country comes as the refusal to do overtime meant no public order units were on the streets of Dublin last night.
The Star leads with, "I fear evil, Joe will go free." On the 19th anniversary of her daughter's death, the mother of murder victim Rachel Calloway says she fears for the first time in her life that killer Joe O'Reilly could soon be released.
The Herald goes with Undertaker's grave or IP off. An Undertaker is at the centre of a major Garda probe into allegations that he stole cash from dead people while he was removing them from their homes.
The Sun leads with beautiful payout. A lucky Irish punter splashed out on front row U2 tickets after pocketing thousands of dollars in a Las Vegas casino. Fair play.
The Irish Times headline, and it says economic growth set for sharp slowdown. ESRI warns the government has received 2 fresh warnings ahead of next week's budget, with the Economic and Social Research Institute forecasting today that growth will slow sharply, while the Exchequer figures show further weakness in corporation tax.
And the Irish Independent goes with budget warnings as ESRI predicts Irish economy to shrink. The economy is expected to fall into recession this year, with the ESRI now warning the government against budget tax cuts that go above and beyond inflation.
And of course, we're going to be speaking about that in the lead up to the budget and what's happening. Also, we're getting a lot of messages in with people who can't sleep. We'd love to hear more because we're going to have our sleep expert on in just a little while. 089 611 111 answering your questions. Everything from trying to sleep when the baby's asleep all the way through to insomnia. Whatever you want.
Whatever you want. We're very interested about this.
Yes.
And after the break, former Dragon's Den dynamo Norah Casey is going to be chatting to us about business basics and sharing her skills. We'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks for staying with us. Now, from former dragon to entrepreneur mentor, our next guest's expertise in the business world knows no bounds, and she's just telling about all the gossip about her new stuff here.
Our new stuff.
Our new stuff.
We'll get to that. Here to tell us more about navigating a career as a businesswoman is, of course, Norah Casey. Good morning, Norah.
morning,
It's
Norah.
lovely to
How
have
are
you.
you?
We were discussing films and Joan Collins and the Beckhams. We'll get to that in a second. But the last time you were here, actually, you were a bit shaky on the feet because you had issues with COVID and there was diabetes and everything. How are you doing? You look great.
I still have diabetes, obviously, type 1, but I now have Dexcom on my arm, so it's continuous monitoring. So I have to bring my phone everywhere. People think it's rude, so I usually say, I'm sorry, but that's monitoring my blood. And I just popped a bit of insulin in before I came in, just to make sure that I keep my sugars. I'm learning. Like, you know, I was with the kids the other day working with Diabetes Ireland to launch the school test campaign, and they were teaching me. You know, I was saying, what do you have for breakfast? Breakfast is a real challenge because you're usually high in the morning, so you don't know what to eat. I was fasting till lunchtime. So this little kid was giving me all the advice on having eggs and, you know.
The tips.
The tips. Isn't that great? But I mean, and you were also suffering from long COVID, and you've talked about this. And is that still affecting you, or is that okay? Because you were quite ill.
I was really sick, yeah. I mean, mainly everything's settled. My heart still gets inflamed. But my lungs are fine, and, you know, my head's okay. Definitely, I spend most of my time now just making sure that I prepare in advance. So some days I don't put up an Instagram those days, you know. But in between times, I'm great, you know.
But I suppose that's your thing. I find it interesting that you say, I just prepare in advance, but just something that you have been doing your entire life in relation to being a successful business person, having gone from a nurse, a successful nurse, to this other role. And it is all about what's going ahead. There was something interesting yesterday that I was looking at, and it was the latest annual report on Irish customer experience. So that's compiled on the trustworthy natures of this. And of course, you know, RT and Ticketmaster and the NCT centres, they've all fallen way down the list when it comes to Irish people trusting them. When it comes to business, trust has to be one of the most important things, right?
Absolutely. My old chairman, gone, God rest his soul, but he used to say, all things being equal, you'll buy from a friend, but all things not being equal, you'll still buy from a friend. So in other words, even if your product is slightly lower quality or it's more expensive, if you know somebody, like them, trust them, you'll want to work with them. And it's funny how, you know, the list that you just went through, it's funny how nebulous and fragile trust is. It can go really quickly. I saw the credit unions top the list for about the 7th. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to deal with a credit union. I was in the credit union in Avon Road. My mum, who's fiercely independent, now we're coming out of COVID, there isn't a human being to talk to her. You know, if she wants to do anything in relation to your utilities, her bank, you're pressing 1, press 6, press 9, press the hashtag. It's impossible for an older person or somebody who's not digitally savvy. That you phone the credit union, there's a human being. Does my mum need? She's grand. She can come up in a couple of weeks. We'll sort it out. Don't worry a thing about it. Nothing's going to happen till, you know, you're ready. And like, just phenomenal to speak to a lovely person at the other end of a phone.
And we could sort of understand maybe the trust in RTE going down, but Ticketmaster and NCT, well, I know, but why? Because if you book your tickets and you have an okay service with them? Is it because of cancellations or
because
what?
remember with Taylor Swift, and you're like, you're able to get the tickets, and the next thing it was like, why have they all sold out so quickly, but they haven't actually sold out? It just didn't seem transparent.
I think if you,
it's
the same thing.
It is, yeah.
If you have a great experience, you're not going to tell anybody. But if you have a bad experience getting refunds, or there were cancelled concerts, we're coming out of the pandemic when it was very difficult for people to get, they had tickets from 2 years ago that they were reusing. And
of course.
So I'd say. And also, I'd say about broadcasting, both yourselves and RTE, coming out of the pandemic, the level of ratings for broadcasting was super high. If ever there was a period in anybody's life that, we fully understood the power of independence and public sector broadcasting, it was then, because it kept everybody, informed and up to date. So then a crisis happens, and it's not that the customer service has gone down, it's the fact that there was a crisis,
100%.
NCT is the same.
All these things happen. Having had so many pictures over the years, I don't know how much you remember them, from Dragon's Den, the amount of people that would have come in, not everyone would have made the telly. Is there one that stands out, just had you rolling, going, I might, just because he's great crack, I might actually just invest?
There's written on my heart the ones that I worked with that I wished I hadn't invested. I would have had more fun putting the money down the toilet, I can assure you. And everybody, like everyone's an armchair, entrepreneur. So
yes.
If I've done millions of things since Dragon's Den, still every taxi driver says, you're one from Dragon's Den? I am, yes. An idea. So I get pitched business ideas all the time. So that's the enduring, compelling format of, in all of us, there might be a book, but there's almost certainly a business. So, yes, I have one brilliant one.
What is it?
Smart storage. In the UK, it's called Clever Closet. Still with me. Amazing, incredible guy. Paul Jacob is his name, an engineer. And he was the very last investment on the very last day that I was in Dragon's Den.
Wow.
Oh, it's
still
nice
going strong.
Oh, not just going strong, through the roof.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. He does more in a week than he did in a year when I met him,
What about the golf ball cleaning machine?
I didn't invest in that.
What
was that?
We got a lot of golf. Ireland has a lot of golf entrepreneurs. Yeah. And I was so lucky to be on with Bobby and, Gavin and Niall O'Farrell and people. And so we had great crack, really good crack. And every now and again, they throw in these odd, weird things, because that's what the TV format is. You get a good one and then you get a weird one.
Yeah.
And this man came in and he came in and he had ta-da, this is the idea. And it's a tiny little thing in his hand and it has a swivel in it. And he said, now, I'll tell you what this is. This is very, very good for you lads now. Do you ever struggle with dirty balls? And Bobby started laughing. But the more Bobby laughed, the more he said, there's nothing worse, is there, in the locker room when you get dirty balls? And this little device, you put your ball in and you swivel it around and it's nice and clean. You're locked in. We used to do it in the New Year.
Yeah.
And so you come straight out of Christmas. You know how miserable it is in the snow. And then we're locked in together from 7 in the morning till usually 7, 8 o'clock at night. And we do that for 2 weeks. And we just have one day off on the Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's like living with your family. You want to murder them one day. Next day you're rolling around with tiredness, laughing about stupid stuff, beating each other up over who's going to get this investment. Very competitive.
If you're watching,
if you've
dirty balls, tell us.
Come in
and have a chat to us and show us the machine. It'll be lovely. It'll be lovely. We have to talk about Women's Enterprise Day. You're always a mentor. You've been a mentor to an awful lot of people when it comes to not just on telly but in real life. You're involved with the women now, encouraging women.
Yes, I sit on the board of Vital Voices. That was set up by Hillary Clinton and Madeleine Albright, and I'm also a global ambassador for mentorship for them. What's wonderful about that is that I mentor women all over the world. So Africa, in India, certainly in Europe, in the States. So it's great to have a network of women that you can say, do you know you're struggling there in Delhi? I know a woman who's struggling as well. And when I'm talking to Irish women that I mentor, they understand you're not on your own, in this country. The nice thing about National Enterprise Day, Women's Enterprise Day, is when I grew up, I wouldn't have a notion to be a businesswoman. I'd never met one. I'd never seen one. The mantra at the time was, what was it, the bank, the civil service, or the nursing? And I went into the nursing. Now, that was a great start in life, but I think if I had seen more women in business, in politics, in public life, they weren't in the newspapers, they weren't on TV. The women who sold the fruit outside Dublin Zoo, which was next to me, they were the most enterprising women I'd ever met.
We had Éanna Ní Lamhna here yesterday talking about a book that there was kept
Yeah,
to go, that's
they
a
were
woman,
incredible.
a small little book, that's one woman
Yeah.
who can speak on that. So they just weren't...
My journey into business, I suppose I always think over 20 odd years I've learned the hard way, and I'd love to pass on to people coming after me that these are the pitfalls and this is how you do it, because there's no doubt, in Ireland, just to put it in context, 99% of our enterprise are small, medium enterprises. Every two out of three every new job comes from a startup. So the most important thing for us, I suppose, we're always saying it's great to have the multinationals, but you know, we already have a lower tax rate this month. We're overly reliant on them. The engine, the lifeblood of Ireland is these
those small little businesses
yeah,
around the
and
country.
I wish there had been a National Women's Enterprise Day when I was growing up in business, because all I imagine on the 19th of October, I think there's 14 events. I'm half Leitrim, of course, so I'm the ambassador for Leitrim, Sligo and Donegal. I'm in Lough Esk doing the keynote if anyone wants to come along on the 19th. But there's thousands of women that will come together, and although starting a business is so exciting and exhilarating, it's also terrifying. And it's lonely, and we're coming out of the pandemic and nothing is normal. You know, women who had grey hair, now they're sliding back into... At the same time, all the way through the pandemic, people phoned their local nixer to do the hair, but that's not sustainable, because we need hairdressers and salons, because where are the new hairdressers of the future going to come from? You know, there's local coffee shops that are going under because they've got warehouse tax. That's all due back on the 24th of May.
And inflation, of course, is all...
Inflation, energy costs. We ourselves are behaving oddly. That's the best way of putting it. As in, we've continued to do online shopping for clothes. We had a terrible August, so the retailers obviously didn't do many sales. So you can see summer clothes all over the shops now on sale. We also have all of the difficulties of trying to get good staff. I'd say if you were to say to any woman starting a business, what's your biggest problem, it would be that. But the local enterprise offices, like, if you have a great idea, we don't know what to do with it. And by the way, that's 100% of us. They can give you funding to do a test on it. You can give you marketing or digital.
We actually get them on the show quite a bit throughout the year, and they are, and people say they are fantastic to go to. So the National Women's Enterprise Day, as you said, is on the 19th of October. You're in Lough Esk, is it? Giving your keynote speech.
And
great that you're parting your knowledge to so many people. It's great.
And you can find out more at localenterprise.ie/NWED. Norah Casey is going to be there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about your new film career that she was just telling us about in just a little while, supporting them. Welcome back. Now, earlier on, we discussed the science of sleep and its importance to our body and how it functions.
Yes, and it was very interesting. And sleep consultant Anne-Marie Boyan has very kindly stuck around to answer your sleep-related questions. And we've got so many of them in, so we're going to try and get through as many as possible. So, Kathy has the first problem here. I've trouble sleeping since my husband died. I fall asleep no problem, but I wake up 3 or 4 times a night and lots of dreams. Is getting this kind of broken sleep bad for me? I suppose she's grieving as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and really sorry to hear that, but a big life event such as a death can cause insomnia. So firstly, know that it is normal, and you will wake up, so that you either are going to be waking up during the night or not being able to fall asleep. So give yourself grace. And you know, you can get some help for that, but it is very normal. I see it a lot.
And is it something that you kind of grow out of? Because obviously your mind is racing. It's you're grieving, you know.
Yeah.
And is it something that you kind of, much like it just becomes a normal thing for anyone who's been through that? They're like, you kind of get used to it, and her sleep could return.
Yes, it's event-related insomnia, and it happens from deaths in the family. It happens, big life moments like the Leaving Cert can cause it, a child going to college. Those types of stressors can really affect your body, and when we have cortisol in our body, it is going to affect our sleep.
Okay, so there's no timeline on this?
There's none. You know, if you do need help, you know, I would seek help.
Doctor,
yeah, absolutely. Maria has gotten in contact. Hello, Maria, thank you. I had to get up 5 times one night to use the loo after I had tea late. Is this something I need to stop doing?
Yes, so no liquids before bed, so that's the first thing.
How many hours before bed?
So usually I say 3 hours before bed, but that's for heavy meals and drinking. So people do have a habit, though, of having a beverage before bed. So the tea can cause you to go to sleep during the night. It can also be a symptom of mold illness.
What's that?
I see it a lot in my clients. So it's an immune response that you can get from mold. That does cause excessive peeing in the night.
Mold in your house, like mold in your
it can
damp living room or something like that?
Yeah, it affects people differently. So you may not be affected, but for me, it can cause an immune response. And one of the symptoms is peeing excessively in the night. However, this sounds like just stop the tea before bed.
So mold illness is something I have never heard of in my entire life. I'm assuming an awful lot of people don't realise that they have it because you just think, oh, I'm getting older, I pee more at night time.
Yeah, and it's very common. We can pick it up from food, from houses, etc. And I test for it when I look at people, especially people that have insomnia or that are peeing in the night. So there's an eye test that you can do to see if you have it. As I say, this particular case, I'm not working with the person, but it does sound like, just ease off on the beverages before bed.
Does it have other long-term effects? It doesn't sound great.
Well,
no. It's an immune response. So for me, it might really affect me. So it can show up as peeing during the night. It can show up as sinuses, headaches, weight gain, insomnia. It's one of those hidden illnesses out there that causes serious.
Wow. Maybe get that checked out if that's continuing then. I often find myself, this is Valerio, I often find myself thinking and overthinking before going to bed. I know a lot of people who do that. They're sort of trying to get to sleep, but the mind starts racing. Is there any advice to help me fall asleep sooner? Because it's taking her like 30 to 40 minutes to actually just fall asleep because the mind is racing.
Yeah, so I see this a lot as well. So you need to get from that stress response into a calm state. So I would recommend doing a sleep routine. So you need to separate your daytime from your sleep time. So that's a tiny little buffer, and to do something that's relaxing. And this will tell your brain, I'm going to sleep. So you actually just need to get out of that sympathetic response into parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest and calm. So find something that will work for you. Everyone is different. So that could be listening to a meditation. It could be listening to a podcast. It could be doing breathing exercises. It could be reading a book.
Yeah.
Something that's calming, and it actually then, there's a lot of studies to show that this actually signals to your brain, I'm winding down to sleep.
But like Muireann, if you're listening to a true crime podcast, is that not very conducive to going asleep?
It's about the voice. It's the calming voice.
Yeah. I do think there are great apps like the Calm app that, and it's the voice that does it for people. It might be Matthew McConaughey or Cillian Murphy or someone, or opposites for the other sex. Yeah. But no, not something like a true crime is going to stimulate you. And
some of them have really boring voices. It's not interesting at all. But it is interesting that we used to always, like my grandmother always read before bed. My mother always reads before bed to calm yourself down. Yeah. It's something very simple. Now, Dan says, I've got an irregular work schedule and sometimes I wake up 3 or 4 times a night. And then I think I'm late for work. So he gets that jump. He's like, oh my God, how can I stop this happening?
Yeah, alarm anxiety is a thing. And it's a fear of either not waking up or missing a flight. Sometimes people get it, going for a flight. So your subconscious knows that you need to get up, and if you miss that, then it's thinking worst case scenario. So you need to reassure yourself that it's all okay. So if you have an alarm on, have a look, make sure it's the right time set. Reassure yourself. I would use a lot of positive affirmations to reassure yourself that my alarm is going to go off. I'm going to get up on time. And again, it's getting yourself into that calm state, because if you're not calm and logical about it before you go to sleep, it's going to play on your mind during the night.
And what about maybe even setting 2 alarms, so you just know you have that little extra security?
Exactly, and that will give you more reassurance.
I test my alarm sometimes, so I'll put it on for a minute's time.
I do as well.
And then I know that the alarm is going to go off, and then I set it for when I need to get up. And then I'm like, OK, it's definitely going to work.
It's definitely good. Amy has said, I recently started going through menopause. I'm sure you get this a lot, and I'm finding it really difficult to sleep when I'm having hot flushes. Is there anything that can help?
So menopause causes huge sleep issues, and especially the hot flushes and the insomnia. So it's a result of our hormones changing, and progesterone is the hormone that we have goes down, estrogen gets thrown out of whack. So firstly, get your hormones checked. So you can do that either with a doctor, with a blood test, or go somewhere that specialises in menopause. So there is the menopause clinic, or there are menopause specialists in GP surgeries. So get your hormones checked and then get them balanced. So that will help the hot flushes and the insomnia and all of the other things.
Right, okay.
Jerry, lately I've been getting up at 4 a.m. for work, but I get overtired in the evening and I'm unable to sleep. Why does this happen, considering I am so tired, and how do I prevent it? That is not from me, that's from someone called Jerry.
Yeah, it's very common, unfortunately. So I would advocate for having a nap. You know.
So, and we just remind people that you said earlier on, a nap is, the optimal nap is 26 minutes.
Yeah, so it's just to give your body that rest and recuperation if you've had the bad night's sleep, or you're working shifts, or you just need a bit of more recovery. So NASA have done studies to say that the optimal time is 26 minutes. Now, if you're on a weekend or on holidays, definitely have a longer nap.
Yeah.
But that's the key time, so that you can just give yourself that extra oomph.
This could
when you wake
regulate
up.
Jerry. You think that it could regulate his sleeping in the evening?
Yes, so long as he doesn't suffer from insomnia. So an insomniac shouldn't nap, because you have to work on their sleep drive, which is trying to get them to get as much sleep time during the day as possible. So as long as there's no insomnia there, but naps work for the majority of us.
Okay, to try to regulate what it is. People can find you at the sleepcarecompany.com. The science behind all this has been absolutely fascinating, and knowing that you can no longer catch up on sleep. This is not a thing that you can do.
It's not a good thing.
It's unbelievable. Anne-Marie Aoibhín, thank you so much for joining us today to talk all about sleep, the Sleep Care Company.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Now, lots more still to come in Ireland, and we're back in just a few minutes.
Welcome back. Now, yesterday on the show, we spoke with former HSE Director of Digital Transformation and Open Innovation, Professor Martin Curley, who expressed the need to digitise the Irish Health Service based on his experience working for the HSE.
Now, we received lots of texts from viewers on the subjects, and we also received a statement from the HSE, which we didn't have time to read out during the interview yesterday. And in it, they highlighted the approval of electronic health records in several maternity hospitals, 4 live and 2 approved, and that they are tendering for community and shared care EHR services.
They also highlighted that the Department of Health is currently updating an information communication and technology strategy. A loan from the European Investment Bank, this is of €225 million, which funds the HSE exclusively, is being used to support their investment in multiple information, communication and technology areas.
Yeah, as we said, we got lots of texts on that yesterday, and lots of texts coming in about different topics that we covered this morning, including the ESRI telling the government to maybe, like, that it looks like we're going maybe into a recession. But I was interested earlier on that Adam was talking about as the political correspondent for the Irish Sun, where I think the word recession means we're going back to the bad old days when
2008.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But it's not. A recession is just a slowdown.
Yeah, that we might kick into recession and that we do need to deflate the economy. So this is what's it. But Catherine says you don't need an ESRI report to know there's a slowdown in the economy. I live in a large manufacturing town. People have been on a 3-day work week for months now. Our biggest employer has temporarily laid off their workforce. This has a domino effect all around the local economy, because if you have people not going to work, going into the town, not going getting their paper from the shop, not going getting their cup of tea.
Coffee shop, it is the thing.
Yeah, but sure, with inflation the way it is, like, you can understand, I went into a place the other day, a cup of coffee was €5.
€5 for a coffee?
It was a latte. It was a low-fat latte, sorry. It was $4.90.
A low-fat latte is $4.90?
It was in this one place. I did not buy it.
But are people buying a low-fat latte?
It was
like
business.
If low-fat latte is this size type of thing?
It was a big one.
Oh, big
it was a big one.
Okay.
It was a big one.
All right.
Anyway, we were also talking about the Garda roster row, which means that the Gardaí are temporarily, for the next 5 Tuesdays, withdrawing, it began yesterday, withdrawing their voluntary overtime.
Which will affect the budget next Tuesday, Halloween, all falling on these days when... Like, there's a lot of pressure on the guards to be in certain places. And Anne says, in fairness to Drew Harris, he's just trying to maximise the presence of Gardaí on the street, which what people are calling for. The guards need to take direction from their boss to protect the public. At the end of the day, they have to put a job they have a job to do, and that is part of it.
Jen says it's not just about the roster. It's ridiculous what's going on the streets, and the guards are being painted in a bad light. We should all be showing more support to the guards. It is not an easy job. 0896 111 111. We'd love to hear from you more on this, because this is rumbling on. Don't know
it's going to
when
rumble
it's going to
on.
stop.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're also talking about a survey earlier on that people they have nicknames for their cars. None of us here had a nickname for our cars.
Yeah, it's like 37% of people have a nickname for their car.
Yeah. And some people actually think their car has personality.
Oh, yeah.
Which is quite worrying.
That's it.
It's quite worrying.
Well, if you've got a temperamental car, that doesn't like to start, you might be like, he's the old ball and chain at home.
My car has a personality. Saoirse says, my husband's name is Damien. His friends call him Damo. He drives a Ford Mondeo, so it calls him Mondamo. Yay!
Thank you for that way, Derek. Thank you for that. Also, I'm liking this sexy Mondamo dance. Damo, that was just for you, my friend.
That was just for you, Mondamo.
And Maeve, I've got a 20-year-old Nissan Micra, and she's known as Molly. Don't know how it all started, but she's Molly the Micra.
I used to call my car Stevie G. It was red and a good runner. Everybody used to call it that too, so it was the best car ever. So, here she is in our Stevie G. Or Shay, here he is in his Stevie G.
That's Stevie.
Stevie G.
Steve from Liverpool? What's it? What's Stevie G?
Stephen Gerrard.
Stephen Gerrard, is that what it is? Good runner?
How did I know that?
0896 111.
No idea where that came from in my brain that I knew Stephen Gerrard.
After over 20 years on the show, sport is finally starting to seep into his brain. It's amazing.
Sarah says my daughter has a Volkswagen Polo and she calls it Marco, like Marco Polo.
He's enjoying this. Send us more in 0896 111 111. Back with you shortly on Ireland AM. What's this all about?
You are very welcome back to the final hour of Ireland AM. We've got a poetry connoisseur and a history tour. That's coming up.
That's coming up. Entrepreneur Aoibhín Garrihy joins us to chat making poetry accessible through her latest collection of favourites.
And it's all about trending textures in fashion this morning. Justine, what have you got for us?
Yeah, so we're definitely in the season of our kind of luxurious textures. So we've got a beautiful velvet suit, which you'll see here on the catwalk. We have our sequins, we have metallics and leathers. So it's all about those kind of plush, rich textures coming into the party season. And then you can see a little peek at her metallic shoes here as well. So there's lots of that coming up.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Lovely.
Looking forward to that.
Now, I'm going to ask you, now say if it rained and you were wearing that one. She always goes mad when I ask these questions. But if it rained now and you were wearing that, it'd be destroyed.
Run inside. And find
There you
some place
go.
to run inside. That'll be it.
Yeah.
Justine, you'll have more hard-hitting questions like that in just a little while. Derek is in County Laois this morning. Derek, how are you doing?
Yeah, guys, I kind of feel like you're the explorer. We're exploring County Laois here this morning. We're paying a visit to Dunamore Workhouse on our way towards the Agriculture Museum. Trevor's still with us. Trevor, tell us what this buska is here.
This buska here is actually a knife sharpening machine, and it's part of our kitchen and household collection. We obviously have an old Singer sewing machine and a Tilly lamp.
And what is this little utensil here now?
Well, now, that would suit you down to the ground. That's actually a curling tongs.
Oh,
Derek.
it's a curling tongs. So you put your hair in here.
Well, you have to heat up the iron.
Oh, you have to heat it up.
And then you curl.
By the way, our director Mo back at Gallery said this was a nutcracker and not for the nuts you eat. Work it out for yourselves. Back to studio, guys.
I wasn't expecting in a Famine Workhouse to get a hair tutorial now, to be perfectly honest, to get living his best Jane Austen life there.
Well, they're multifunctional tools. You can comb your hair or do whatever.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Yes, sure. We're live here just outside Rathdowney in County Laois. Coming up later this hour at 9:45, we're taking you behind the scenes here of Donaghmore Workhouse and Agriculture Museums. That's all to come towards the back end of the show. So hang with us for another little bit. Now, we're getting past 9 o'clock here together. Still parts of Donegal getting hit by some very heavy rain up around Dunfanaghy, Falcarra, through the northern part there of the Inishowen Peninsula. But beginning to clear up a little bit across the county, but still that status yellow rain warning in place there for the entire county until midnight later on tonight, with some heavy rain forecast, spot flooding and surface water. Parts of Bantry through the southwest and just west of Mill Street there in Cork getting hit by rain at the moment, but elsewhere mainly dry and settled with that mixture of bright spells and cloud cover. Now right across today, in fact, those southwesterly winds will pick up pace for a time, and it really is the north up around the northwest once again getting the heaviest of that rain out there today, so do be mindful if you're out and about. Elsewhere, pretty decent in terms of those bright spells, certainly winning out the further south-southeast we go, with top values slightly fresher and cooler out there this Wednesday too, at 13 to 16 degrees. And then into tonight, it looks like we'll be showering for a time, then dying back. Then we're going to see another system of, guess what, rain showers pushing eastwards across the country into tomorrow, so a bit of a bumpy ride as we tuck our way into your Thursday, with temperatures no lower there than 10 to 13 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here. It's dry and settled, beginning to brighten up here in Laois at the moment. We'll be back again live at 9:35.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Hello, welcome back. Now, we've got lots of messages coming in, and we were talking earlier on this morning about what's going on with the Guards and their roster. They have withdrawn voluntary overtime every Tuesday. It began yesterday. It's happening for
the month of October.
Yeah, 5 Tuesdays in all. So it'll affect Halloween, and it's also going to affect the budget day next week. And some of your messages in relation to this.
Been coming in, Gava says, the Garda groups have been negotiating a roster for over 3 years. How did the Commissioner think that giving 3 months' notice would speed up things? That the Commissioner, Drew Harris, has said, like, there's a 3 month, he gave a 3 months notice to when it would change over.
And he wants to revert to the Westminstown roster, which was the pre-COVID roster. Kevin says the Guards just need to do what they're paid for. Everyone else is back to the pre-COVID work schedules, so it should be no different for them.
And Jack says there's no respect for the Gardaí anymore. I wouldn't recommend any young person to join them. It's a thankless, dangerous job. I think the respect for the Guards, I definitely think, has waned, because I remember when I was young, I'd be terrified if a guard was walking towards me, or if a guard came into the house, everybody would go, oh, look, it's the guard.
I think it depends, because if I've got a guard driving behind me, I genuinely think I've got a body in the boot, so I am terrified.
But that's also what I'm saying. That's gone with so many young people now. That fear and respect of the Guards is not there.
Yeah, because I suppose there's what can you do? See, this is where it comes into the judicial system, the backlog, what's happening with everyone, and what is there any recriminations for bad behaviour? Anyway, that is going to be, we're going to be talking about it for a long time.
We were also talking about earlier on about a survey that people give their cars nicknames, and some people think their cars have personalities, which is quite worrying. Mary Lou says, all my cars are called Roadrunner because I love driving and think of nothing but hopping into a car and driving for 6 hours straight. Mary Lou, 6 hours straight.
Eamon Ryan won't be happy with hearing that, will he?
I couldn't drive for 6 hours straight, my God.
Get the tax on that. Patrick, I drive a black BMW 640. I named her Black Betty, and we play the song when we go on long journeys.
Black Betty, down and down, oh, Black Betty. Sean says, I have a Toyota Yaris. That's me and the family have come to call, what would I call it? Yaris Hilton.
Yaris Hilton.
Yaris Hilton.
Fancy.
That's a good one.
Anthony's actually behind the camera shaking his head going,
these are so bad.
We're also boring. Not one of us has a name for our car.
No, we didn't. What would you call it?
Carrie?
Carrie.
To be fair, my cat was called Cat. So I'm not the best with names. Thank God I don't have a child. It would be called Child. Thank you so much for all of your messages today. Now, after the break, we're going to be chatting to Bio Beauty, Aoibhín Garrihy, about business, babies, and being a bestseller.
We'll see you back here in a few minutes.
Welcome back to Ireland AM Now. We first saw her over 10 years ago. Loves to be reminded of this
10 years.
on Fair City, but our next guest has left acting long behind for family, business, wellness and poetry.
Now, joining us for a little chat is 1/3 of Ireland's most glamorous sisters. Really? Glamorous sisters, fabulous sisters. Aoibhín Garrihy, good morning
Thanks
to
for
you.
reminding me of the 10-year thing.
Lovely, isn't it?
Lovely.
Lovely.
We were chatting about the three of you yesterday in the office, and somebody said, they're like, and you've heard this so many times.
I've heard this, don't do it.
Yeah,
I've heard it,
the
let's not
Irish
go there.
Kardashians.
Well, at least we're not feuding. You know, we're all getting on and...
Well, you must feud sometimes.
No, not really.
Really?
No, we don't. Not anymore. When we were younger.
When you're kids.
We know the boundaries now and we tend not
And
to,
respect
not to cross
us all,
them.
yeah.
Would you like to go out with a little card saying not the Irish, just three sisters
Just so
who
we
happen
could, yeah.
to be get along and people know who we are? You know, it's mad.
Can I ask you, Aoibhín? I mean, like, people know the three of you, but growing up, like, you are so successful, all three of you. Growing up, was there any sort of chance that one of you might just go and work in the bank, or do you know that type of thing?
There was a bit of that, and you know, we're involved in the family business as well. I suppose. Look, we support one another, and that's the key to it, I suppose. And we talk to each other, and we share, and it's a great support network. You know. Yeah, I'd be lost without them. I really would. You know, I think that was always something that Mum and Dad instilled in us, that a problem shared was a problem halved.
Yeah.
And, you know, the lines of communication were always open. And
were you always supported in your career choices then by your family and your sisters, yeah?
Yeah, of course. I got primary school teaching when I did the CAO and the Leaving Cert, and that was pinned up on the wall. It was postponed, but I was kind of reminded it's there now, and you go away and do your drama, but you'll always have that to come back to. So they did support, but I think, you know, having a bit of a safety net was always important.
Oh my God, can you imagine you teaching us Tracy? It would be the nicest primary school class. Teachers would be like, oh my God, you got Miss Garrihy, this is amazing.
It's a tough gig, it's a vocation.
Oh, totally.
Unbelievably. But with all of this, because you've gone on, the genes are strong, you've had 3 girls.
Yeah.
Can you see the same dynamics playing out with them?
Totally, yeah, I'm morphing into mom, like, I really feel like I am, it's so funny. And then, yeah, I mean, the smallie Isla is Dhiren. Through and through, pure rogue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very funny. She's 2 now, and I can already see it. Like, she's just a character, total character. And then Honora has kind of a level head, a bit like me. You know, she's kind of a bit more grounded, and it's funny. It's funny. History repeats itself.
And Alva's in the middle. Like, is it? Does it feel like
it
Alva's
does. And little Yvonne, yeah, she's the quiet one. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? You know, but yeah, typical.
It's mad kind of seeing yourself.
Yeah,
it's lovely.
But they're all so different. They're all so different.
You have to have your own personality.
And we have to say congratulations, 7th year anniversary there only a few days ago.
Actually, yeah, 7 years. What did they say? The 7-year itch?
No.
Are you all right?
Are you all right?
Is Alan making you hot and bothered?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
You never know.
No. Where I get my kicks now is the fact that he got them all out the door this morning. I had to head to Dublin last night to be here with you this morning, and John did the school run. He did all the lunches. He did all the breakfast. He got the 3 girls dressed, and I rang. I said, is their hairbrush? Are they in ponytails? They are. He managed it all. So I'm seriously impressed.
He wasn't phoning you going, where's the trousers? Where's the shoes?
No, it was laid on. It was laid on. Last night, everything was laid out. But at the same time, he did it, which is great. Yeah, so well done, Dad.
Because it is kind of, it has to be teamwork, right?
Totally.
Because you have a lot going on.
Yeah, as does he, you know, and it is. But look, we've got support as well. You know, we have to, because otherwise we just couldn't do it. And blessed with family, you know. I came up last night, my mum had the electric blanket on when I arrived into the house.
I love it.
So moms don't stop being moms.
They really don't, sure they don't. Come here, we have to talk about this, and Warren was showing me this morning. You're going full Dermot Bannon on this property in Ennis. Yeah. Tell us about it.
Yeah,
like it's because we were talking to Norah Casey this morning about small businesses in towns, the backbone of the country.
Yeah, and they really are. They really are SMEs, you know. Bio is 6 years now, and we started in the live event space, but the pandemic changed all that, and we kind of had to reinvent the wheel. And it's kind of evolved into somewhat of a lifestyle brand now, but we have an amazing community and classes and events, and I suppose like holding that space for people is something that we love to do. And we dipped our toe in the water a little bit with it in Lahinch. We popped up during the summer and had classes there right throughout the summer, everything from sound baths to crystal meditations to yoga to paint and sip evenings. And we really have built on that community that I guess Bio has become kind of synonymous with. And so this opportunity came up in Ennis to finally put down roots. And myself and my partner Sharon, we have small families, you know, and it's hard to travel, and we've done pop-ups in Kildare Village and Arnott's, and we've been all over. But really for us, logistically, we need to be at home. We need to be closer to home. So this opportunity came up to have a flagship store, I suppose, in our hometown. And we're kind of merging the the event. So we'll have a studio space there that we want it to become, I suppose, somewhat of a wellness hub, a community space that people can come, have a coffee, maybe browse. We'll have a retail space and socialise and become, I guess, feel like part of something. Feel part of.
It's going to be the hub of Venice now.
Well, hopefully, that's the plan. That's the plan.
Everybody.
It's exciting.
Yeah. What's it going to be called? Is it going to be called
So
Bio?
Bio is the shop, and then, as I said, there's going to be a coffee house and a studio space, and we haven't revealed the name of that yet, but it's very exciting. It's very exciting because there's so much history in the building. It's been there since the 1700s.
Yeah,
so
it's a beautiful historic building.
Yeah,
like, you've really taken on something quite amazing.
Really have, and I suppose we're hoping to retain all that old character, the old stone walls and the arches and the brick. But some of the stone has actually been taken from the cathedral across the road and used in the build. So it's amazing. Some of the, the stone that was left over.
And there's a lot of places that, revitalising local communities with so many people trying to move home to where their parents are.
Yeah.
And kind of move out of city centres. It's really fantastic. And then I suppose that term that you've become synonymous with, like, it is wellness. And it is all-encompassing. It's such a huge industry now.
It's a huge, and look, it means different things to different people, I suppose.
Yeah.
And for us, it's about shared experience. It's about community, and whether you're carving out 5 minutes with a book in the evening just to gather your thoughts or reflect, or whether you're going full throttle, with your health and your wellness regimes. I suppose it's just about trying to give yourself a little bit of time back, on a regular basis. To I guess, fill your cup. Fill your cup.
But you've been so successful with it, and because you really thought about it, you got involved in it. Like, it's become a saturated market now, isn't it? Like, everyone's trying to be, let's start up, let's have a little class and get together and we'll all ring bells and we'll do some, this type of thing. But I mean, sort of sometimes, do you get annoyed at that type of thing when you've taken it so seriously and put so much work into it?
No, I mean, look, it's great. It's great that, so many people are now
bells.
tuning into it. Well, we ring bells too.
You ring bells.
We ring bells
I don't
too.
mean to be derogatory about that, but you know what I mean, because you are so invested in it.
Well, look, crystals, say, for example, is not something that I had really opened my eyes to until we had the shop in Ennis and people came in and said, do you have crystals? And we didn't. So I went in search of them, and I found an amazing girl, Kira, Smudge Studio is her business. And we've linked up with her now, and she hosted the crystal meditations. And it's opened up a whole new world, And I suppose whatever it is, whatever, you find solace in, if it works for you,
I always say
that, pop it into that toolbox, and they're nuggets that you take away.
And each to their own.
Each to their own.
It makes you feel good. We live in such a, you can get so down sometimes. And everyone's problems are their own problems. And if you find something that makes you smile, every time she talks, I just calm down. That's who I should be listening to.
No, do you know what I'm looking at? You look absolutely amazing.
Do I? Oh, God, I don't feel it. You have a great team here.
You are,
it was the electric blanket last night.
I tell you, the mother's electric blanket, I tell you.
You keep on because you find time. It's very hard for anyone in modern life to go, I just need to find time.
Yeah.
And you did discover you were reading out poems as a podcast during lockdown and everything, and it was very calming. And you have a love of poetry, and you've got a new collection of
I really
poems that you've
do.
brought
I'm
together.
so passionate about poetry, and look, that's a total passion project. That's something that
This
I
is the
just
second
thoroughly
one.
enjoy. The second one, the first one was this time last year. Every day is a fresh beginning, and now we have Every Night is Full of Stars. And again, it was just a case of I kept finding more and more gems that I was raging weren't in the first book, and I was like, they need a home now. And I suppose it was the feedback from people that had kind of closed the door on poetry. It didn't do it for them in school, or the way it was thought, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it felt like hard work. And they picked up, or they stumbled upon the book, or they were gifted the book, and it sort of broke down that barrier that they had to poetry, which was so lovely. Then I got messages from people, one in particular stands out, a girl who said, that her dad had Alzheimer's, and, and they were all so stressed about this, and they found the book, or he was gifted the book, and they got together every evening and they asked him to pick one, and he would read it, and it would be kind of a segue into conversation, and it would, remind them of their childhood childhood memories, and they'd all have kind of a chat about the poem. And he said, what I love about it is that they're easy to understand. And that was a real endorsement, you know. And she said, so thank you for gifting us that as a family. Messages like that.
Lovely.
The feedback.
And sometimes it can be preventative with poetry when you're sitting there going, what's the underlying meaning? What's the theme? You think that you have to understand it on a different level sometimes. When it's just nice words.
Well, that's it. And it's also subjective, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we had a sleep expert on
Yeah,
about
Anne-Marie.
reading. Like this would be, imagine sitting there now just before you go to bed.
Well, the
and read
beauty
a
of
few
it is
poems.
it's non-committal, you know, and 1 page a night or first thing in the morning, and it's one that you can flick through, scan through, depending on how you're feeling. And there's something in there for every mood.
And your dad even made it into it.
Did again, yeah.
Again, he was in the first one. So it's like now, every time you have a book, now Dad has to
get into it. He said, when am I going to get my fever
residuals,
But it has to be nice, because I know you've got Jan Brereton inside there and kind of newer...
She's amazing.
Newer poets.
Yeah.
And bringing them to an audience. Like that, surely there's got to be a lot of appreciation.
Yeah, well, we have so much talent, and we've always had it. You know, we've kind of a rich tapestry of amazing Irish poets, but they're still there and they're still producing. The likes of Anne Casey, who's from actually West Clare, but she's now living in Australia, and she is one of our finest experts, in my opinion. She's just incredible, and one of hers is in there too.
Yeah. Swear to God, making Odin and Grecian Urn cool. I didn't think that was ever going to happen again.
I just love the title, Every Night is Full of Stars. It's really lovely. Aoibhín, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I swear to God, just looking at it, she looks an ad for wellness.
I'm telling you, it really is.
I'm going to get some crystals, definitely.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Yes, Ger, 9:32 on the button live here from Laois. We're taking you behind the scenes here at Dunamore Workhouse and Agriculture Museum. That's all coming your way at 9:45. Quick look at weather. Status yellow rain warning in place for Donegal for the entire day. Some heavy rain there forecast over the coming hours now, at that risk of spot flooding. But elsewhere, holding dry and settled, that mixture of sunshine and cloud. Now, right across your day, it looks like once again through the north-northwest, bearing the brunt of any showers, any heavy rain. Elsewhere, pretty decent with southwesterly winds freshening to top valleys of 13 to 16, and then into tonight, dry mainly with isolated showers. Then we have a system of rain building in from the west, so that means a bumpy ride, a wet and windy one as we work our way into your Thursday, with temperatures no lower than 10 to 13 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here in Laois at the moment. We're talking all things on Garth Moore, 9:45. Hang with us.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Welcome back. It's all about textures on the catwalk this morning.
Yes, stylist Justine King is joining us now to tell us more. Good morning, Justine.
Good morning.
Let's get straight into it.
Okay.
So we have Ursula up first.
Yeah, so Ursula's first up in this very glamorous kind of autumn-winter look.
Oh, no.
And as you can see, it's all about textures and mixing textures in that kind of chocolate tone
Fab
in this look.
coat, isn't it?
Isn't it gorgeous? The whole look is from Irish brand On Trend. So it's your faux fur kind of teddy coat. It's super soft to touch. It's fully lined as well. It has pockets, and it's that real statement piece. I mean,
oh my God, it's
Could see
gorgeous.
guys wearing that as well.
You could, yeah. Definitely see. You could definitely pull that off now, Alan.
Yeah.
I just love all the tones. They work so well together.
Don't they?
You've picked out a...
And I think you need to keep it really simple with a coat like that. You don't want to go in a big statement print or anything. So the little top underneath. Now, I think it's very similar to the Skims one that Kim Kardashian has brought out, in that it's almost like shapewear. It's that real huggable body in that kind of beige tone. And this does come in a grey and a black as well. It's just a great layering piece, really, for wearing under anything.
A little neck piece, the neck sort of, what do you call that? It's
Polo
not,
neck.
Well, it's not really
neck. Kind of a turtle
Is it,
neck.
A floppy neck. I don't know.
Well, teaming that even under a dress or anything, it's almost just like an extra kind of layer coming into winter.
Let's talk about these dresses.
Yeah, fabulous straight leg chocolate. They're just gorgeous, aren't they? Kind of like a jean, a leatherette jean, and then they have the kind of slight little flare at the end too. So it's keeping it all in that kind of chocolate and neutral tones throughout the whole
Are
look.
they comfortable to wear now?
Really comfortable, apparently, yeah. They just move really nicely. And I think sometimes the imitation leather is more comfortable than the real leather. You're not as hot or anything. everything.
And do they have a good few sizes in those? They look amazing on her.
Yes, as far as I know, they come from an 8 right up to a 16 in those.
Okay.
So then the boots, keeping it all in that kind of tone, the kind of taupey boots, these ones from Murphy Shoes, and then they have the inside zip as well and the nice block heel.
Okay, and it's a perfect way. Those boots are so nice with where it's cutting off at the ankle. Love it, love it.
I know, because I think we're all having to get used to when we're not wearing skinny jeans, what kind of boots you wear with those kind of straight jeans. So the sock boot is it.
Help me.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble. I still haven't given up the skinny.
So the earrings then.
Earring there.
Yeah, Shodine Jewellery is all of our jewellery today. Beautiful handmade earrings. These ones are a 14-carat gold fill. And then you can see that little kind of woven gold. That's their signature crochet you'll see throughout the jewellery today.
And the ring?
The ring then is a beautiful 9-carat gold ring, and it's got a diamond cut finish, so it just catches in the light really beautifully there. And this does come in various sizes. They're all handmade.
I don't know how you're going to top this look, Ursula. That is
we'll try.
Gorgeous. It's so good. Sophie is our second look.
Okay, so sticking to our textures, and this is all about the metallic textures in this one. We're seeing that kind of silver jean a lot now. We saw it first at Helmut Lang, and then kind of a lot of celebrities and stuff wearing it. I'll start off with.
Call this a cardigan.
We call it a cardigan.
Oh, you do?
Just a cardigan, yeah. Right. And it is that kind of oversized. It is one size, so it's going to fit a size 8 up to a 14, depending on the kind of a fit. It's that longer line, and then as you can see, the kind of statement buttons all down the front and on the sleeve as well.
Lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love that they bring gold into it too. So you could team your gold jewellery. We've kept kind of the whole look silver.
It's great.
Because of these trousers.
It's great to be able to do that. It's really nice to change the colours. Now let's look at these trousers.
So these trousers, they're just stunning. Again, from On Trend. Sophie's just saying she's going to go off and order them herself because they're such a comfortable fit.
Yeah.
They are high-waisted, and then they have the kind of a flared leg as well. They do have them in a gold too, but I just kind of love toning the silver and the grey in this look.
I've tried on about 5 pairs of the silver trousers. I can't believe it. Yes, I think they look amazing.
Yeah, they really are having their kind of moment this season, aren't they? We've kept it easy with the trainers. These gorgeous little ones from Murphy Shoes with the little bit of a pastel detail and the neon at the back, and they are by Skechers. You know, they're going to be a really comfortable fit. They're flexi sole, and they do specifically say they're machine washable, which not all trainers are. But it's good when they're nice. They're a white trainer, you can throw them in the washing machine.
And the jewellery.
So the jewellery then, these are the sterling silver lava drop earrings, and they are available in gold as well. So Shodine have shops in Ennis, Limerick and Skerries, and then they have their website as well you can buy from. So
and that's a lovely bracelet there with it.
Yeah,
as well.
really stunning handmade sterling silver chunky link bracelet. So yeah, just keeping it all in those kind of silver tones, but layer that up with lots of different bangles.
Gorgeous. Look,
Very
those pants
nice.
could be at one of the premieres Sophie's going to. She's appearing in Flora and Son, the new Apple movie from John Carney.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sophie's inside it. It's a brilliant movie. She's great in it.
Now, we saw Danny in this earlier on. It's lovely.
It's really stunning, isn't it? This whole look is from Irish brand Casey Dresses, who are online. This is a real statement suit, and it's such beautiful quality. I can't stress that enough. It's really gorgeous, lined jacket, and then the gold buttons. Now, the trousers and the blazer are sold separately, so if you just wanted the blazer to team with your jeans or whatever, but I think buying them all as a piece, and then you
a lot
can wear
more expensive than it actually
doesn't
is.
it? It definitely looks like a designer piece. It's cut really beautifully. The trousers then are nice and high-waisted, and then the flare. I like they're not too flared. I think a lot of the suits we're seeing on the high street this season, especially the velvet ones, have a really wide leg, and that look isn't for everyone. So this one's just kind of more of a subtle flare and just hang really beautifully. And they are both available in an 8 up to a 14 as well.
Lovely.
The shoes then, beautiful. Metallic, we're calling these
fraction. They're such Gucci shoes.
Yes,
with a fraction of the price.
Yeah, so they are,
and
they are the brand Lodi, so they are a beautiful leather shoe. But the heeled moccasins, we saw them at Gucci, we saw them at Prada. They're definitely having a moment, but we're keeping that kind of metallic that we saw earlier through the look.
Lovely. Now the earrings.
Love the earrings with this.
Aren't they absolutely beautiful? So picking up on that pink, and then they've got that little crochet detail I mentioned earlier. So it's that kind of woven gold that Shodine do really beautifully, and then they are handmade using gold fill as well. So real kind of eye-catching. But you could go for another kind of stone if you wanted to, and not go for the kind of tonal pink with that
Just
look.
a little bangle.
Yeah, really simple little bangle. That's the 14-carat gold fill, and it's a twisty little bangle, so it's an interesting shape, but that is available in your sterling silver and rose gold as well.
Absolutely lovely, Danny.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
We're of one
Lovely,
mind
yeah.
on the looks today, aren't we?
Certainly gorgeous. I love them.
What's Ursula gonna do?
Oh, here she is. She's gone to
look.
the disco.
Oh yeah, sequins. It wouldn't be the party season without a little bit of sequin. And these sequin bombers, they're a bestseller already for Casey Dresses. They have them also in silver and in fuchsia. This is the champagne colour. Yeah, and I think you can dress them right up or down, really easy and a nice nice kind of great shape. They're a nice take on, we've seen a lot of sequin blazers over the years, so the bomber is kind of cool now.
And those, just to let people, like, they were around last year, they're around again this year. I think we're going to get proper wear out of them.
They're not going anywhere. Yeah, big time. It's beautiful. It's lined, and then it has the elasticated cuffs and elasticated waist as well.
So just a little top underneath it then to keep it quite simple.
You could really wear anything. You could wear a t-shirt and jeans during the day if you wanted to. We kind of dressed it up. This is just a t-shirt, but it is a metallic, so it has that nice sheen, which is a nice kind of nod to the party season, even on its own with a blazer or something, and without being too in your face. And that comes in silver and gold too. And then these fabulous jeans, they're a gorgeous fit, but then they still have that little bit of sequin all down the sides. So you're a great kind of night out skinny jean too. And those ones are available in an extra small to extra large, which runs up to an 18. The boots then, a gorgeous classic leather boot. They're by the brand Nero Giardini at Murphy's. A nice kind of platform and the big heel. And they are the kind of boots, like I was saying about my own today, that you could wear in 5 years' time, and they're still going to be
not even joking. They're the first pair of heels I think I ever bought at a garden charity shop in like 1995. I wasn't allowed to wear heels at the time.
And they're still in.
They're still in. They look class. Love them.
So then our gorgeous earrings, we have the crochet cubic zirconia here, made 14 karat gold fill, and then onto the bracelet, a beautiful diamond cut silver bead, which adds that kind of sparkle to it, and then the 14 karat gold fill as well. So again, it's the mix of metallics, meaning she can wear her champagne jacket, her little bit of silver. You can really wear them with anything.
Lovely looks.
Really knockout
nice,
looks today. Love them.
The first one was gorgeous. Yeah, really.
Thank you so much, gorgeous.
Thanks a million.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Now, after the break, Derek's got a museum to explore. We'll be back very shortly. Thanks for staying with us all morning. Now, Derek's getting a lesson in Irish history this morning.
He is indeed. He's in County Laois. Derek, take it away.
Yes, good morning, team. Sun is shining, and I kind of feel like I'm on a school tour here this morning, learning lots down here in lovely Laois. We're taking you behind the scenes of Dunamore Workhouse and Agricultural Museum. We're joined now by a man who keeps the place up and running, keeps it ticking. Good morning to you, Trevor Stanley. How are you?
I am well now, and you're very welcome here to Dunamore, so you are.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. Now, Trevor, I'm up and down the road, the M7 to Limerick, many, many years to see the gang at home. I've passed here many times, but I never knew it was here.
Well, that's what we in Laois call a hidden gem, because we're nestled here in a very rural part of the community. Normally, workhouses were actually built at the edge of large towns, but this particular workhouse was built out in pure rural countryside.
Now, we've two parts to our tour here this morning. First up, we're going to get into the workhouse. This was built just after the famine.
Yeah, we were what's known as a post-famine workhouse, and we didn't open actually till 1853. But we were built to take the overflow from the other workhouses like Roscrea and that, which opened before the famine, and they were immediately consumed with excesses of inmates. Like, there was 250,000 inmates in workhouses in 1846.
So the famine itself, 1845, and Garthamore to 1849. 1847. That was the black year, really.
That was the black 47, as they called it. And the workhouses that were built, there was 133 of them built before the famine, but they immediately became overcrowded and in awful squalor and stuff like that. So the post-famine workhouses were built to take the overflow.
How many did it take in here then?
We could actually accommodate 400 inmates, and as you can see from the morning and stuff like that, we have 4 distinct groups, because inmates were segregated when they came in here, and you had the girls 2 to 15 in the girls' dormitory block, boys 2 to 15 in the boys, and men and women, and they all kept separate and were stringently enforced the segregation policy.
And we saw that, in fact, in some of the shots we had just there on air. The very high windows. Explain why we had high windows.
Yeah, we're saying the likes of the dining hall, right? You would have had women working there, preparing the food and stuff like that. But all the windows are over 6 foot high, so they couldn't look out at their Johnny or Mary that might be outside the window to see how were they.
Wow. Moving on to the second part of the tour then, taking us into the earlier part of the museum. Of course, this is where the modern early day utensils that we use in our kitchen were kind of based off, right?
We call this interpreting our rural way of life. Obviously, we have household implements that you saw earlier on, but here you have horse-drawn implements. All of these artefacts have been donated from the people in the locality.
And it's all volunteer-led as well.
All
right?
volunteer-led. We have a board, but we're able to capitalise on grants, like the Leader grant that we had to restore the dining hall, Heritage Council grants and stuff like that, as a voluntary group.
Then into the machinery here itself, we've the likes of the seeder, we've got the butter maker here, also the potato digger.
Yes, we've over 700 items in our collection. And if you meet two fellas coming in here who were used to that period of time, you needn't bother giving them a guided tour, because they would tell you how all of these things worked. My father always says that anytime he ever came down here, he saw nothing but hardship, because obviously it was all ploughing one sod at a time, not like your 4 sods that you were looking at yesterday or last week.
And a lot of them horse-drawn, of course,
and all
back in the day.
horse-drawn at the time, and the ponies trap, you know, to go to mass on a Sunday.
The co-op as well took over this place for a time, and you work very closely with Laois County Council too.
Yeah, well, Laois County Council actually owns the site now, and we have the buildings leased from them to interpret the story and to present it as a museum. The co-op originated here in 1927 and has now obviously evolved from Avonmore into Tirlawn. And
lots of renovation work undergoing here as well. Where can people find out more online?
We're on social media there. Our website is dunamoremuseum.ie.
All right. And you want to say a big shout out to your wife and kids, by the way?
Well, what do you call it? Carol there now, I think, is looking on, and Brian and Claire, anyway, we'll be talking to them later.
And would you believe, guys, Carol actually locked herself out of the house this morning. So she was ringing him there live on air. She was like, Trevor, can you let me inside to the house? I can't watch. Anyway.
In fairness, she's a patient woman, so she's waiting until I finish.
All right, thank you so much. Back to you guys in the studio. Great morning here in Laois.
Thank you so much, Derek.
So interesting down there.
Well, we can't forget our history.
No, that's true.
He will be in a community near you very soon. He does absolutely Trojan work. We love what he does for us every single morning. Derek Artigan, we appreciate you totally. Now, what are we going to be doing tomorrow? On tomorrow's show, how about this? We chat to a self-proclaimed witch who practices sex magic.
I'm so glad I'm here for this. Plus, we'll have the latest on what to watch in cinemas and streaming.
And if you're craving a fast food treat, we have got cheeseburger spring rolls in the kitchen. Ireland AM is live from 7.